Adnan's consciousness returned in fragments. First the sterile scent of antiseptic, then the soft hum of alien machinery, and finally the realization that gravity felt wrong. Too light. His eyes fluttered open to reveal a ceiling of translucent blue material that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. "You're awake," came a gentle voice beside him. He turned his head, muscles protesting the movement, and found himself staring into the most unusual face he'd ever seen. The being beside his bed had the general structure of a humanoid, 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, but her skin held an opalescent quality that shifted from pale blue to silver depending on the angle of light. Her eyes were larger than human proportions would suggest, a deep violet that seemed to hold starlight within them. "I'm Neha," she said, her lips curving into what was unmistakably a smile despite her alien features. "I've been your primary care nurse for the past 3 cycles." Adnan tried to speak, but only a rasp emerged. Neha immediately reached for a container of liquid, helping him drink. The taste was unfamiliar but refreshing, with notes of something like mint and copper. "Where?" he managed. "You're aboard the medical vessel Synthesis, currently in orbit around Kepler 442b. Your ship was found drifting in the outer system, life support failing. You've been unconscious for nearly a standard week." The memories came flooding back then. The exploration mission gone wrong. The cascade failure that had knocked out their engines and most of their systems. Adnan had been the only one conscious when the rescue ship arrived, and even then, he'd been fading fast. "My crew?" he asked, though her expression already told him the answer. "I'm sorry. You were the only survivor we could save." Adnan closed his eyes, feeling the weight of grief settle on his chest. Captain Martinez, Engineer Singh, Dr. Okafor, all gone. He was alone, hundreds of light years from Earth, the sole human in alien space. "You talked in your sleep," Neha said softly, interrupting his dark thoughts. "What?" She smiled again, that curious expression that somehow transcended species. "For days you spoke in your unconscious state. At first we couldn't understand the language. Your human tongue is quite different from our phonetic structures. But our linguistic AI worked to decode it. What did I say?" Adnan felt heat rise in his cheeks, embarrassed at the thought of babbling nonsense while unconscious. "You told stories," Neha said, settling into the chair beside his bed. "Magnificent stories of your species. You spoke of humans who climbed mountains not because they needed to, but because they were there. Of individuals who threw themselves into burning buildings to save strangers. Of scientists who spent lifetimes studying the dance of particles too small to see. And explorers who looked at the vast emptiness between stars and called it an invitation." Adnan blinked in surprise. "I said all that? And more. You recounted the tale of a human named Ernest Shackleton, who led his crew across frozen wastelands when their ship was crushed by ice. You described how humans send messages into space, hoping that someone, anyone, might hear and know they existed. You spoke of mothers who lift vehicles to save their children, and of artists who spend years creating beauty that might outlast their own brief lives." She paused, her violet eyes studying his face with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "Your species fascinates us, Adnan. We are an ancient people. We've had interstellar travel for over 50,000 of your years. We've encountered hundreds of intelligent species across the galaxy. Most follow predictable patterns. They develop technology to ensure survival. They expand to acquire resources. They create order to maintain stability. But humans," she continued, leaning forward slightly, "humans are different. You do things that make no logical sense from a survival perspective. You risk everything for abstract concepts like honor and justice. You create art knowing it serves no practical purpose. You explore dangerous places simply to satisfy curiosity. You form emotional bonds with other species, even artificial intelligences." Adnan felt a strange pride welling up in his chest. "Is that unusual?" "Unprecedented," Neha said firmly. "When our linguistic AI finished translating your unconscious narratives, it flagged them as either fictional or evidence of severe psychological deviation. But our medical scans showed you to be perfectly sane. More than sane, actually. Remarkably psychologically healthy for a being who had just lost everything." She stood and moved to the window, gazing out at the stars beyond. "We brought your case before the Galactic Council. The member species were divided. Some believed humans were too unpredictable to contact formally, too dangerous. And others? Neha turned back to him and her smile was radiant. Others believed that a species capable of such beautiful irrationality might be exactly what this galaxy needs. We've grown stagnant, Adnan. Efficient, yes. Peaceful, certainly. But we've forgotten how to dream impossible dreams. So what happens now? He asked. Now you recover fully. Then, if you're willing, you become humanity's first official ambassador to the Galactic Council. You'll help us understand your people and perhaps you'll help us remember what we've lost in our millennia of logical civilization. Adnan stared at her, overwhelmed. 3 weeks ago, he'd been a simple xenogeologist on a routine survey mission. Now he was being offered a chance to speak for all humanity before an assembly of alien civilizations. Why me? He whispered. Because, Neha said, her expression gentle but determined. In your sleep, you told us stories that made ancient beings weep with wonder. You reminded us that the universe is not just a collection of resources and territories to be managed, but a canvas for impossible adventures. She reached out and touched his hand with her own, her skin surprisingly warm. Besides, she added with that transcendent smile, anyone who can make a Zephyrian nurse believe in the beauty of climbing mountains because they're there might just be what this galaxy needs. Outside the viewport, the stars wheeled slowly in their ancient dance, but for the first time since waking, Adnan felt like he was exactly where he needed to be.